Hello everyone. Thank you for joining me on another video. So today, I am going to try to grow some sweet potatoes from a steamer bag. Now, I have not tried or seen these before. I just saw them in the grocery store near the sweet potatoes, which I picked up some red garnets. I'm not sure what kind these are. I couldn't really find anything on the bag saying what brand or what variety it was, but they're a little smaller, but I think we're going to give it a go. Hopefully they haven't been sprayed with growth inhibitor. So we got our bag of potatoes, we got some supplies here, I got some bottled water, some large mason jars, the 12 quarts, and I also picked up some red garnet sweet potatoes to see which ones grow faster, or to see if these will even grow, because I've grown these red garnets before from the same grocery store and the same company. These look pretty good. And I've already got some Georgia Jets going. Got the Georgia Jets going right over here. These are roughly about a week put in water, but you can see all the little tiny roots, well, not so tiny on that one, coming out of the bottom. There's a little one coming out of there, tiny one in there. So these are starting to take off pretty good. See these? These are all Georgia Jets. So let's get those other ones in water and see if we can get them to grow. Alright, so we got our jars out. We're gonna flip open our taters here. See what they look like. So they look pretty good. They're not soft. I can't tell if they've been cooked yet or not. It doesn't look like it. It just says they're washed and ready to microwave. So this bag came with 5 pretty good looking sweet potatoes. So we're gonna take the tops off our jars. Oh, that one almost took me out. Ooh, getting a little hot in here. Got some pressure in these already. Now I'm growing all my sweet potatoes in my grow room, and it's about, oh, let's see, it's about 78 degrees in here right now. So you want to put these in an area where it's going to be nice and warm. Okay, so we're just gonna start by taking our potato, just dropping them right in the jars. I usually like to go fat end down. So here you can see some roots right here from when it was planted before. Alright, we're going to start with those 4. And I like to fill the water up roughly halfway, but do at least a third. And you're going to want to keep your eye on these water levels, because it will evaporate day by day. If you want to keep those water levels up so the area that's already saturated stays fairly saturated. Now, if you're using tap water, I suggest you fill up a big bucket and just let it sit for 24 to 48 hours so that can distill a little bit. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little more in that guy. So we're gonna take those other 3 red garnets that I got at the grocery store at the same time. And we're gonna plop those in and see which ones grow faster. Hopefully these little guys out of the bag do grow. Now when you do sweet potatoes, you always want to plant more than you need, because not all of them are going to make it. I would say when I do this, probably, I don't know, 3 out of 10 will most likely just not grow and start rotting on you a little bit. Okay, we'll have to get a little more water for that guy. Okay. So we got our jars filled about halfway up on the sweet potatoes. You don't have to go quite so far, but I like to do about halfway, just so I don't have to refill them quite so often. They seem to hold water a little better when there's more in there. I'll have to get a little more in that one, but yeah, do at least a third on the bottom of the sweet potato there. Now a lot of people like to, you know, anchor the sweet potatoes on top with the toothpicks, but I tried that like the first year I did this, but it rotted the potato much faster than just leaving it sit in the water. Now you can also put them down like inside like a little tub, you know, halfway full of dirt, and you can lay them down halfway up, but I found that they rot a lot faster like that too versus just being in the jars. So now that we got them in our jars, we can start taking them over to the spot with the other ones. Alright, get some of these over here on the other side of the grow room. And here, this is what I was talking about right here on this guy. So even though these have only been in the jars about a week, this one's already starting to rot pretty good on top. See that rot right there? There's a little bit of rot on the bottom half, a little bit of rot on the sides. Now, I mean, it's up to you whether you want to keep that, but whenever that happens, I throw mine right in the compost pile, because it's just not, it's not worth it. The rot sitting around, it'll start smelling after a little while. So, keep your eye out for that. Grab these other two. Stick them over here. Now, if you make sure you remember what varieties are there, if you care, if you don't know the difference in the color. Now we'll grab these other 3 red garnets that are going to act as, well, the control, I guess. But I'm also going to grow them. So we'll stick these guys back here. And there you go. Don't forget to add a little bit of water. And now these will, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, we'll start sending up little leaf runners out the top of these sweet potatoes or on the sides, or even a lot of them will start growing underwater and they'll just push their way out through the jar. So we'll come back in a week or so and hopefully we have some roots in these new ones, and the ones on top will be pushing some leaves and maybe even some vines out. Okay, quick update here. You can see the little potatoes from the bag are really starting to push out roots, and it's only been 4 days. So 4 days after dropping them into this water in a consistent heated room in my grow room, which is about 78 degrees, you can see that not only are they pushing roots, but if you look right up here, they're starting to push out chits or vines right here on the top of the potato. The same on the Georgia Jets back here. These guys are almost an inch on that one, but the roots are pretty long. And then these are those 3 control potatoes, sweet potatoes that I put in, and you can see how cloudy and nasty looking that water is, almost on all 3 of them. This one might have a chance to go yet, but this, when it's cloudy like this is a good sign that the potatoes had the growth inhibitor on them. They were sprayed on them. Not necessarily, but that's usually what happens when you put the sweet potatoes with the growth inhibitor in it, and most likely I will end up throwing all 3 of these away because of the cloudiness, and it will never get any better, and it'll just keep leaking out into the water, basically contaminating it. You know, this one's pretty cloudy. You can see all that nasty stuff sitting on the top of the water, and again, it's only been 4 days, so that's a good sign that these are not gonna grow. This one might take off yet. It looks like there might be a little bit of roots, but you can still see nasty stuff floating in there. That's all because of the sprays and the root inhibitor. And then you look at these like that, and look at all the roots in that one. And the Georgia Jets, they were planted roughly, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 days before these smaller ones, but these smaller ones are really starting to take off. Alright, so we'll come back hopefully in just a little bit and see how big these chits are going to get. Usually once they pop, it only usually takes a week or 2 for them to just really start coming out and going crazy. So we'll be back in a little while. So I just took that one of the nasty ones out of the jar, and you can see how rotted it already is, and it's only been 4 days. So definitely keep an eye out for that cloudy water and get those nasty potatoes out of there, because if this one would have been left in there probably a couple more days, it would have been smelling pretty bad. Alright, another quick update. It has been 11 days since I put these sweet potatoes from the bags into water. You can see now that these guys are really starting to leaf out pretty good. There's another one from the bag, pushing out a lot of roots. Another one right there, lots of roots. I think this one right here, yeah, it's just starting to put out some vine right there. And then these in the back that were planted a little bit earlier, these Georgia Jets, you can see the foliage is, the vines are already, they're pushing almost 6 inches on these. So as soon as these are probably, 8, 10 inches tall, I'll come in and I'll snap that right off, and I'll just throw it right into the water. But since we're at this stage right here where they're just starting to pop through, this is the time that I like to add just a little bit of fertilizer. Oh yeah, these over here, here's one of the other ones. So it is completely full of mold. Not a good sign. No roots whatsoever. That was one of those other varieties, the bigger varieties that I picked up. We've already thrown away at least 1 or 2 of them, I think, out of the 3. I think this was the 3rd one out of all of them. So we're going to get rid of that guy. And I got 2 more over here that are not looking so hot. See, full of mold. The water's extremely discolored. Same with this one over here. Which, I mean, you're going to run into that. I usually, it's probably 40 to 50% that end up like this, but that's why I always start a whole bunch. Usually I can get what I need out just like 2 varieties, like 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, we've got 10 slips on that one right there. So let's get these out of the way. And so the fertilizer I like to use is this Espoma Organic. It's pretty light. It's a 222. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna quarter that, and it'll basically be my dose will be roughly a quarter of this cup. You can go up to a third, but I like to go to a quarter. And this stuff's great for indoors too, because they put a little bit of mint in it, so it has actually has a fairly pleasant smell. And we're gonna mix that into our half-gallon watering can. And I'm gonna come right over here. Fill it right up out of my fish tank water, well, little fish pond water. And I am just gonna give these a quick, like 5, 6, 7 second drink, because that will be enough for them to get some nutrients, but not enough to burn it or harm it. You may think that's really light, but it's crazy how fast these things take off after this first fertilizing. There we go. Okay, well, that was a little over full. Give a little of that guy, even though he's not chitting out yet. Alright, we'll do another update when these get a little bigger, and then we'll get some of these into some water so they can produce some roots for planting. Alright, back for another update. It has been another 7 days since we put the fertilizer in to these guys, and they have taken off like crazy. Look at these ones in the back. And these are already second and third shoots. I've already pulled a bunch off. You can see over here all these shoots that have already been put in water. These are all about a week, some of them less than a week, like this guy right here. That one's only 2 or 3 days. Here's some from the bagged potatoes. Yes? Can I help you? Did you come in to help? Oh, okay, you don't like the camera? Alright. But yeah, these are pushing out roots like crazy. Come back over here on this side, and these are the 3 from the bag. You can see these roots are just absolutely taking over the jars now, and I think it's been, let's see here, about what, 20 days since I first dropped them in there. You can see some of these back here. These are some of part of the control, the bigger ones. They're pushing roots pretty good, and they're just starting to chit out. This one's got, you know, maybe a 2-inch vine coming up, but yeah, these guys back here are going like crazy. You can almost cut those in half and put them in water. But once they get about 6 inches out here, what you want to do is you want to come in and just break them right off, and then you want to pop off like the bottom few leaves. Grab another one here. Just bend it right off, opposite way. We got a shorter one in there, try not to pull it off, but it's not a big deal if you do. Got a couple good sized ones right there. We're gonna come over here to this guy. And just gonna shear that off, and you can see this vine was forming underwater. So this actually has roots already. This thing is actually ready to pot up in a pot, or if it's warm enough in your growing area or your growing zone right now, you know, you can plant that directly in the soil. So we'll take the leaves off about the bottom, 3-4 inches on here. Now this one I'm just going to leave. Actually, I'm going to pop the leaves off, but I'm going to pinch them above where the stem is. He's already got some roots. Oh, I missed that one. Okay, we've got our slips, and we'll take them back over to the water jars. So you can see, those have only been there about 3 days, and they're already shitting, or they're already rooting like crazy. So we're just gonna stick these these slips that we just pulled off of there right down into that water. That's about 2.5 inches. Now I do have this on a giant heat mat right here. So if your water jars are sitting on heat mats, they're gonna root out a lot faster than they would if they're just sitting in a regular room. And make sure you separate your varieties so you know which is which. Obviously you can tell here with the leaves, but there you have it. You can grow sweet potatoes from bagged produce. Now at this point, just like I was saying before, once you got these nice hardy roots on these, you can plant these right outside, or you can plant them in little pots. You know, I usually do 3-inch pots and put them in my greenhouse if it's not warm enough yet. So there you go. Go ahead and get those sweet potatoes started, and you can have success too. Even here in Minnesota, I get a pretty nice crop of sweet potatoes. So until next time, Jason with Toadstool Gardens. Happy growing.